WPA.
Ocala.
All right, it's raining out there, Robin.
Yeah.
Raining. 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Monday morning. Hey, let me tell you some names of some celebrities.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you about Robert De Niro, Angelina Jolie, Prince William, Robert Redford, Sarah Jessica Parker, Barack Obama, Keanu Reeves, Jerry Seinfeld, Nicole Kidman, Julia Roberts, Bill Clinton, Lady Gaga, Seth Rogen, Mary-Kate Olsen.
Okay.
Owen Wilson. We like Owen Wilson. Bruce Willis. It goes on and on and on. All of those people have one thing in common, at least. They're all left-handed. Diane Keaton, Robin. Mark Wahlberg.
Oh my
Tom
gosh.
Cruise, left-handed. Tim Allen, left-handed.
Nice.
Matthew Broderick. And yet, Justin Bieber. And yet, only 10% of the people are left-handed.
Is that right?
So many famous people are left-handed. It's Ben Stiller, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Emma Thompson, who played the lady who wrote the Mary Poppins book, right?
Yes.
Dr. Howard Kushner is on the phone. He's a scientist, a social historian, the Nat C. Robertson Distinguished Professor of Science and Society Emeritus at Emory University, and John D. Adams Professor of History Emeritus at, I always don't know how to say emeritus. Anyway, at the San Diego State University. His book is called On the Other Hand, Left Hand, Right Brain, Mental Disorder, and History. Dr. Howard Kushner, this sounds like a fascinating topic. Good morning, sir. Thank you for being on our show.
Well, thank both of you for having me on the show.
Are you left-handed?
I am. I'm in the same group of all those other people. You left out one other important person. Big Bird is left-handed.
Oh, cool. How neat is that?
You know, I also left out Paul McCartney. As a kid, I was fascinated with the Beatles, and Paul McCartney, his story about being a guitar player, playing a right-handed guitar, not knowing that he had to change the guitar. That was fascinating to me too. So anyway, I don't know if I just showed my age, didn't I?
Well, Paul McCartney's still singing out there. So.
He's still singing. So, what is your conclusion about all of this?
Well, you know, left-handedness through human history, all the words for left are all negative, like sinister or gauche, or in Chinese it means you've taken the wrong path. So there's this long belief in abnormality of left-handedness that somehow or other has made it okay to discriminate against them.
But why?
So left-handedness is... You go ahead.
Okay, but what is... Okay, left-handedness for me means you write with your left hand, or right-handed means you write with your right hand. But I eat with my left hand and write with my right hand. I could write a letter and eat cereal at the same time.
Well, that's very good. That's very good. Yeah. In most of the world, until writing became an important part of most people's lives, eating with the left hand was seen as really profane, and it was that was the main negative thing. And then later on, writing became, because that was a central part of society, that became the central test. And so, if you're looking at a traditional society, it's still eating, and if you're looking at us, it's writing and throwing. Right, and as you just pointed out, there are a variety of things we do with either hand. And so some people are very strongly left-handed or strongly right-handed, and others are sort of mixed, like you seem to be.
Yeah.
Like I am. I throw with my left hand, but I bat with my right hand. So.
And like a musical instrument, like a piano, where there is no way of turning it around, you just learn. No matter whether you're left-handed or right-handed. Paul McCartney was a great piano player, as he was a great bass player and guitar player. But you use both hands. So isn't it a matter of training, or do you think it's genetic?
I think it's mixed. For some people, they're very strongly left-handed. It's probably genetic, and for others, it's probably learned. And many people, like my mother, were forcibly switched to be right-handed. And so when later on we want to know whether someone's left-handed or right-handed, they may not even remember they were switched. It was very typical to force kids to use their right hand and to punish them if they used their left hand, or humiliate them. So many people were, and parents would also change their children. But some people couldn't be changed, and they must be the ones that are much more, probably more genetic underlying, and then others have learned, right? For instance, playing playing tennis with your left hand is a great advantage recently, and some very famous tennis players switched their hands.
Yeah, and the movie Rocky,
as children.
the movie
Exactly.
Rocky implied that being a southpaw, as he called it, was actually good because the other guy doesn't expect you to come at him that way.
Exactly, and that's the question is, why are there any left-handers at all, and why have they survived if there's such a negative feeling toward them? And part of it is that left-handers have some advantage, and one of those advantages is surprise.
The surprise, yeah, but how does that explain David Letterman? I mean, does his left-handedness? You know what I mean? How does that explain any celebrity or any political person?
Well, obviously, it's not that kind of surprise, but maybe the result of having suffered through so much discrimination makes left-handers more resilient than other people. So, therefore, people who already are or have some talent, it makes them stronger. But there are very, very many talented right-handers. So it's hard to know.
And
right, what the secret element is.
And you had some horror stories about some of the different cultures about how they retrain their children not to be left-handed.
Right. In particular, one of the examples I think I use is the Zulu in South Africa, and they do everything they can. They hit the kid. They refuse to hand them anything in their left hand. But if the child persists, they dig a hole, pour boiling water in, and stick their hand in. And so that has a very strong effect, obviously.
It was absolutely horrible.
Yeah, well, remember the King's speech. The King actually was switched when he was 7 or 8 years old to being left-handed. So from being left-handed to being right-handed. And some people attribute his stuttering to that forcible switching.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
That's one of those movies we have on our list of... We haven't ever seen it yet. So tell me about the right shift model. And why do we even have models? Are there... is there some kind of a theory that we need to correct people? And it's not true anymore, is it?
Well, it depends. In most of the world, it is true, right? 10% of the population or more is left-handed, and the forcible switching, like in China, where they claim they have no left-handers, at least until recently, it's because they'd have to develop materials and desks and other things for 10% of the population, which is very expensive when you're trying to modernize.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that it's been associated with all kinds of negative things in these societies. Right. So the other is always seen as suspicious or dangerous. And sorry,
I was just wondering if your father or mother were left-handed.
My mother was left-handed, switched to be right-handed, and it had some effect on her. She had a lot of.
Yeah, I'm sorry you did say that.
So it was cut across the entire society, really, up until the 1950s in the United States, and all over the world. It still continues.
Well, you had written a book called "The Histories of Tourette's Syndrome," and then in this book, you say that people think that might be the cause of people being left-handed.
Right, actually, I did. That's how I got interested in left-handedness, aside from being left-handed, which obviously creates a strong interest. I was working in a clinic with Tourette's and attention deficit patients, kids, and it seemed to me that they were left-handed more than one would suppose, more than 10% of our population. So that made me begin to look at other kinds of learning disabilities to see if there was, in fact, a connection. And many people found connections, but whether those connections are strong or not, it's hard to say, because, as you just pointed out with yourself, how do we say you're left-handed, or we say you're right-handed, because depending on what skill we look at.
Yeah.
So it's still confusing, and a lot of people just keep trying to figure out, well, is there a connection? And secondly, why do we have any left-handers at all?
So, I'm left-eyed. We had an optometrist in the studio one time, and he had us put up our hands at arm's length in like the OK sign, which is your index finger and your thumb making a circle, and just look at anything with both eyes, and then figure out which eye you're actually looking at it through, and that was your dominant eye.
Exactly. Right, and then in the surveys, when you ask someone if they're left-handed or right-handed, they have 10 questions, and one of them is, what eye do you favor? What ear do you favor? Which leg do you move forward?
Oh my God! How do we know that about ourselves, though? I mean, that guy gave us a little tests, and does it mean anything?
Well, that's a bigger question, whether it means anything. I think probably the difference between right-handers and left-handers is not that important, aside from the way we make it culturally important. But on the other hand, we may not know. We may be talking about very many different kinds of people. There may be more one way to become left-handed.
Is there anything maybe sports-related that seems to be better if you're left-handed, like shooting a gun? Or bow and arrow, or let's see, what else could they throw in a javelin? Anything? You said tennis already, but that's because of surprise, because there's an opponent.
Well, the classic case to show how important this is China, back in China again, where the Chinese say they have no left-handers, but they've just discovered that ping pong players who are left-handed have this tremendous advantage and win more often. So now they encourage ping.
Oh my gosh!
So sometimes real information changes people's minds.
And about the cultural classifications, you observe that if men are left-handed, they appear to be gay, whereas if women are ambidextrous, they could be a lesbian.
Really?
Well, that's what one study's claimed, but and others have said the same thing, because they're looking for some reason why when something is physically different, it must have some other kind of effect on life. But the evidence is that, in fact, gay people are no more left-handed than the rest of the population.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, we do have the phone ringing. If you're okay with taking phone calls.
Sure, be happy to.
Okay, let me go to a couple of them. Good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. My cousin graduated from Polytechnic Institute of Brooklyn, and one of their clubs was the Polytechnic Union of Left-Handed People. Polytechnic Institute of Brooklyn no longer exists as part of NYU now, but that was his little side story. And then the drummer, Buddy Rich, he can do strong hand. Well, he's passed away now, but he can do strong hand with either hand. And a drummer has a strong hand and a weak hand. He could do it either way. In fact, at one point he injured his right hand and he had to switch to being a left-handed drummer for a time until he got his strength back in his right hand.
Really? Wow. That's interesting. Thank you for the call.
It is interesting. Yesterday was International Left-Handers Day.
Oh, really?
So one of the things about left-handers that's helped them a lot is they've taken pride in being left-handed rather than being ashamed and embarrassed by it.
I can't imagine why you would be embarrassed. I don't get that at all.
Well, because you were punished. People were punished for being left-handed. So, and they were humiliated in classrooms.
Were you? Did you get to go through that?
No. My mother did, but I didn't, because it was one generation further, and also because as a boy and a baseball player, that was seen as an advantage. Sports is one of the places where left-handers have gotten a much better deal than have in general education.
By the way, I mentioned Paul McCartney. Ringo Starr, by the way, the drummer for the Beatles, was also left-handed.
Right.
And in fact, he attributed his style to the very fact that he was left-handed playing on a right-handed set of drums, which I don't know the difference, but I guess he does,
At the turn of the last century, around 1900, there was a big movement in Britain and other places called the ambidextral cultural movement, where they tried to get people to use both their hands for all tasks, saying this would strengthen their intellectual and physical abilities. And it was quite popular for a while, and the leader of it was the founder of the British Boy Scouts.
Really?
Wow. And in Britain, they made the Boy Scouts shake hands with their left hand rather than their right hand.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
You say that left-handedness has been seen as a proxy for the right brain rather than the left brain.
Exactly. That's true. Because, generally if you're left-handed, then if your motor function is on the left side, that means on the brain it'd be on the right side. But when it comes to language, which handedness becomes a proxy for, it's less clear. So only 18% of left-handers are actually right brain, but 5% of right-handers are right brain too. So it gets to be very confusing.
Let me go to the phone again. Howard Kushner is our guest, and Dr. Howard Kushner, and his book is called "On the Other Hand: Left Hand, Right Brain Mental Disorder." We haven't really talked about the mental disorder part of the title. We'll do that after the call. Good morning. Thank you for calling. You're on the air with Dr. Kushner.
Good morning, Dr. Kushner. I was in school, and I remember this distinctly. this was right after World War II, and we moved back up to New York. That's another long story, but we moved back to New York, and I went to grade school. I think it was the second grade. We were learning cursive writing, and they actually forced me to use my right hand to write, learn how to write. And it was really, at the time it was traumatizing. I wanted to do things with my left hand and forget it. I just had to go and do as the teacher requested.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it was really unbelievable at the time, but this is what was gone. Today I write with my right hand, but I throw a ball and a lot of other things with my left hand. A lot of times I'll reach for something, like something comes up and I'll reach for it with my left hand. Something,
Wow.
all of a sudden comes at you, or block with the left. So I'm just wondering, with that kind of condition, what would your thoughts be on that? And I'd like to listen.
Well, I think what you just said is very typical of a lot of people's experience, and I think it gets to the question that Robin asked a minute ago about mental problems as a result. And one of the things is if the children who were switched, of course, had a harder time doing well, so it became self-fulfilling in school that left-handers were inferior to right-handers in the mid-20th century anyhow, and before.
Have you done a study with twins? If one twin is left-handed, does that mean the other one is?
Yeah, the studies of twins are interesting because if generally you'd think that if they were identical twins, then they both be left-handed or both be right-handed, but it doesn't turn out to be so. On the other hand, fraternal twins, where you think it wouldn't necessarily be so, it turns out that 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 they tend more to be both the same hand in fraternal twins, and that doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what the data shows.
That's strange.
Oh my
Wow,
gosh.
that's a fascinating topic. Do we see this in other? I hate to say we're animals, but I mean in other animals. Do we like are dogs left-handed or? That's crazy.
Good question.
Actually, that's a very important question. Other primates too. The truth is that all animals and mammals are left-pawed or right-pawed. So if you take all the left-pawed mice, right, and you just breed them again with other left-pawed mice, you still get 50-50 left and right. So humans are unique in the sense that they're the only ones that are saying 90% one side and 10% the other. So where other animals may choose either side, there's no dominant side. And then the other thing that humans have that's unique that is tied to the dominant side in terms of the brain is language. And so handedness may actually be at the origins of language, because once humans could stand on 2 feet, their hands were free to do other things, so they could begin to communicate through sign, right, and through gesture. And probably handedness and language have a common root through gesture.
Wow. The book is called On the Other Hand, Left Hand, Right Brain, Mental Disorder and History. Dr. Howard I. Kushner is the author. And did I hear a dog? Do you have a dog?
Pardon?
I thought I heard a dog in the background there. All right.
No, I don't. We don't. Well, if you heard a dog in our background, it's the ghost of a dog.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. All right, let me take a little break, and we'll be right back to finish this discussion. Dr. Howard Kushner will be with us when we come back, and we'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Monday, more clouds than sun with a shower or thunderstorm around in the afternoon. The high 89 to 93, then partly cloudy Monday night, low 74 to 78. Partly sunny Tuesday with a thunderstorm in spots, mainly during the afternoon hours over the interior, high 90 to 94. For Wednesday, times of clouds and sun with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm in the afternoon, the high 90 to 94. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Hi, I'm Seth with AA Lock, Dock, and Security. Have you ever thought about the locks or security on your house or business? Have you ever wondered why the keys to your new car cost so much? Well, at AA Lock, Dock, and Security, we can help with securing your valuables. We can even replace those expensive transponder keys. We can give you the knowledge that no one else will. Call AA Lock, Dock, and Security at 867-1965. That's 867-1965.
Ocala Business Leaders Incorporated is a group of independent local firms providing a wide range of quality goods and services. Each firm strives to maintain the highest level of professional integrity and 100% customer satisfaction. When you're looking for goods and services, call a member of the Ocala Business Leaders, and we are confident you will be pleased with the results. If you are interested in becoming a member of the Ocala Business Leaders, join us at the Ocala Elks Lodge, 25th Avenue in Ocala, any Wednesday at 7 a.m. and enjoy a breakfast on us. For more information, check OcalaBusinessLeaders.com.
All right, 25 minutes after 11 o'clock, Dr. Howard Kushner is our guest. His book is called On the Other Hand, Left Hand, Right Hand, Mental Disorder in History is the subtitle. Doctor, before we run out of time, let me squeeze in a phone call, and then we'll get the information from you so we can get the book. Good morning. Thank you for calling and waiting. You're on the air.
Good morning. This is John. Thank you so much. I've been a left-hander my whole life. I've always been praised as being a left-hander, great artist, great musician, and I love being a left-hander.
There you go. Are you an artist and a musician?
Actually, I'm a radio disc jockey.
Oh,
Nice.
All right. 2 turntables and a microphone, right?
Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
But I just have to say, I love being a left-hander. I've always loved being a left-hander and been praised for it. So, go left-handers.
There you go. All right.
Wonderful.
You're in good company, it sounds like. Yeah, it's a fascination. I feel left out. I want to be part of the club.
Well, you could retrain yourself to be left-handed.
Yeah, but then wouldn't I be kind of fake? I don't know.
Well, who knows?
So what do you mean by the mental disorder? Is that just a perception of mental disorder, or is...
Well, it's like if we look at the history of other disabilities, like my history of Tourette's, or like the history of attention deficit disorders, or the history of autisms, you can see that, like other disabilities, left-handedness is made into a disability that was understood as a sign of abnormality. So when people are trying to explain these other learning disabilities, they say, well, there must be something abnormal that we can see. So what they could see is they're left-handed, even though the evidence doesn't necessarily support that. So the definitions of left-handedness have to keep being changed in these studies in order to make them come out right.
If you're watching the streaming video, I do have a cover, the photo of the cover of the book on the streaming video. And by the way, this conversation is being recorded. It will be up as a podcast, so you can share it with as many people as you want to.
Great.
I did find it on Amazon, and it says it's not released yet. Is it out? When does it come out?
September 10th. You can buy it in advance, but September 10th it comes out officially, and it's published by Johns Hopkins University Press in Baltimore.
Okay.
And so it's also on Barnes and Noble and the other kinds of online booksellers.
Since so much has been focused, with the past generation and past that about focusing on not being left-handed but being right-handed, can you help people that are diagnosed with dementia and try to generate that focus on them? And if they are able to do things with both hands, do you think that might slow down the dementia?
That's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that, but since nothing else seems to slow it down, maybe we could think about that. Certainly it has a lot to do with memory systems and the deep part of the brain called the hippocampus. So I'm not quite sure. My next project, actually, I want to look at some of these questions, particularly the history of Alzheimer's and what we can learn from that in terms of helping people out.
Wow.
Nice.
Developing strategies, right.
Richard Simmons, by the way, left-hander.
There you go.
Well,
we met him.
He's been in the studio,
Yeah.
Dr. Kushner, thank you for sharing your information with us. It's quite an honor to have you on. A fascinating topic, and your study we've only scratched the surface in the context of the radio interview, so I would recommend, if you're interested in the topic, get the book, On the Other Hand, and I found it online. It's pretty easy to find. Dr. Howard Kushner, again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Doctor. All right, we will be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Monday, more clouds than sun with a shower or thunderstorm around in the afternoon. The high 89 to 93, then partly cloudy Monday night, low 74 to 78. Partly sunny Tuesday with a thunderstorm in spots, mainly during the afternoon hours over the interior, high 90 to 94. For Wednesday, times of clouds and sun with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm in the afternoon, the high 90 to 94.
Fox News Radio, I'm Paul Stevens. Suspect James Fields Jr.